Hello, and welcome to EURAXESS Smart Talks.
The Smart Talks podcast series is an EU-funded EURAXESS project, which provides information and assistance to researchers at any career stage.
EURAXESS supports the European research area in its ambition to create a single, borderless market for research, innovation, and technology across the EU.
We support researchers in mobility, careers within and beyond academia, innovation, and entrepreneurship.
We strive to enhance scientific collaboration between Europe and the world.
Hi, I'm Daria, a senior expert for the National Contact Point in Latvia.
And I'm Leia, a project manager for IP&D in Israel, focusing on the interface between academia and industry. Today, we'll be discussing Switzerland. Switzerland is known for its stunning landscapes, world-class education, and cutting-edge research. It has become a sought-after destination for researchers from around the globe. In this episode, we will explore the unique offerings of EURAXESS Switzerland, opening doors to remarkable research opportunities and facilitating integration for international researchers. Together, we'll dive into the various aspects of researcher mobility in Switzerland, uncovering the possibilities that lie within its renowned universities, prestigious research institutions, and vibrant scientific communities. We'll hear the stories of researchers who move to Switzerland, research managers, and of course, EURAXESS support staff on how they welcome incoming researchers to their diverse and beautiful country.
We would love to start with the research support staff, and our first guest today is Maddalena.
Maddalena was born in the Italian-speaking south of Switzerland and moved to Bern to study biology. In 2002, she joined the Central Services of the University of Bern, focused on informing and supporting the local researchers and companies about the European research programs. Maddalena has been a research manager for over 20 years. She is currently the head of Grants Office of the University of Bern, where she leads a team advising researchers of the University of Bern on national and international grants.
So thank you, Maddalena, for joining us. We surely would like to ask you some questions about the research career possibilities in Switzerland. So can you give us, please, an overview at the research community in Switzerland and specifically at the University of Bern?
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much to you and EURAXESS for the opportunity. In Switzerland, we have 10 universities and then also universities of applied sciences. Although it's a small country, we know that the quality of education is our main important resources. So there is also good investment in research funding. And that is why there are actually numbers of positions for PhD students and then also career positions for postdocs and at later levels. So usually Switzerland is renowned for the high quality of the research infrastructures, of the research funding. And that means it makes it very attractive internationally. So we have a very international research atmosphere. In most universities, you will have a lot of courses starting from PhD level that are offered in English. Although Switzerland, as you may know, has 3 language regions with universities, plus a 4th smaller Latin Romansh language community. What is also particular is that it's a very small country. So some universities join forces. For example, the veterinary education is offered jointly by the University of Bern and the University of Zurich. In Bern specifically, we are complete university. That means that we have also medical faculty and train medical doctors, but also have the social sciences, humanities, theology. We are quite strong in sustainability research and climate change, and also internationally renowned for that. A specificity in Switzerland is that the universities are generally funded by the cantons, so by the regional organizational unit. And the 2 polytechnical schools, which are renowned, the ETH Zurich and the EPFL Lausanne, which focus on engineering. The two are national. So at all levels, you will find a very thriving and international research community.
Thank you. Are there a lot of Swiss researchers who will go to other places to do research? And how many people are coming from outside of Switzerland to do research in Switzerland? What is that relationship like?
Internationalization of the Swiss research community starts also from the strategy of the major funding, the major funding agency, the Swiss National Fund, which promotes the mobility of postdocs and already of PhD students in the projects they fund. They really want the people to go out of the country, to leave the comfort zone. And they have a fellowship program for people that have a relation with Switzerland, for example, that made a PhD in Switzerland to go out as a postdoc. And this creates a lot of networks, which then can be continued either with institutional funding, but also with participation in European research projects, and also with some instruments of the Swiss National Science Foundation. It is possible to have international cooperation. So on the one side, it's Swiss people abroad that would cooperate with the Swiss here, but also with the level of funding, it is attractive to get the best talent. So there are high numbers of people from abroad, from outside Switzerland, that come for a PhD to Switzerland. And some of them will also stay outside of academia. That's also why it is interesting to come to Switzerland, because you will have companies both in the pharmaceutical but also IT that want to stay next to the places where the people are trained. So having a university is a thriving basis also for industries and research centers. I cannot give you numbers, but already the country itself, 25% of the population in Switzerland has some kind of link with a parent or both parents abroad. So either first generation immigrants or second or third. So yes, we are an immigration nation, although we do not perceive ourselves as such. And specifically in research, it might be a reason that the salaries in the countries are quite good. So starting a career as a PhD, which has a salary, but it's not comparable to starting a professional life, is sometimes not that attractive financially for somebody who has opportunities in Switzerland otherwise.
You've mentioned about a lot of different trainings for the staff. About the inclusiveness, it is understandable because you've mentioned already that there are a lot of nationalities and so on. I wanted to ask you about this intersectoral mobility. Do you have also the trainings that researchers need to be not only focused on the academia career path, but also, for example, like industry is also open for them? Because usually it is a problem for researchers to understand where his place is in this world.
Yeah, actually not. Actually, the Swiss National Science Foundation focuses on science, and so purely on mobility towards the academic sector. And it has never been an issue for people that complete their studies in Switzerland or have a PhD to find a position in the private sector or in the public sector. There has not been any push at national level for this kind of mobility towards other sectors. What there is in Switzerland, there is funding for innovation that is actually very specific, because the funding goes to the universities to work together with a company to solve an issue of the company. And usually it is done that the university funds a PhD student who starts collaborating with the company to solve that problem of the company.
Very practical applicability, I would say, yeah.
Well, it comes from a political vision that the state should not give money to companies for research, because then the companies would not necessarily do what they think is the best for them, but they would do what they see the state is funding. So there has been a long debate on that. Now that has changed. Now the law has been changed, and it is possible for the innovation promotion to support the cost of companies in innovation projects.
So I just wanted to skip to a question that was put at the end, but I think it's relevant to bring up in our discussion now. How can researchers, both native to Switzerland and coming from abroad, best take advantage of the programs or the grants that EURAXESS and the EU are offering?
I think that my suggestion would be to be active on two lines. The one is when researchers come to Switzerland, they are usually in contact with an institute, with a chair, with a professor. So one line would be to really be active, proactive, and ask there about what they know in terms of possibilities for training, for networks to be engaged at the level that is specific for the topic that they are doing research. And then I would really suggest to contact the EURAXESS contact point at the universities. In Bern, it is the Welcome Center that will specifically direct the person to the right place depending on the question. So they have a lot of know-how regarding very practical questions of coming to Switzerland. But then they could direct you to, for example, the EUResearch Information Network, of which I am a member, which is financed by the government to make sure that everybody in the research sector are informed about the possibilities of the European programs.
How do you usually do that? I mean, from the practical point of view, you are coming to researchers and lecturing, or just offering them courses or consultations? How is it covered?
We do it, we try to reach out to researchers by organizing information events or specific workshops. For example, when we were associated to to the Horizon program, which is currently not the case, we gave workshops on how to successfully draft a Marie Skłodowska-Curie postdoctoral fellowship application. Now we focus more on the participation in the collaborative programs where it is possible. So on the one side, we organize events and try to reach out to people, but we also offer that people can reach us, contact us. So we try to be present so that everybody knows that EUResearch exists, and it should be the first reaction. Oh, I want to know if there is something for me, and I reach out to the EUResearch office.
Now we have a few questions about researchers who are coming from outside of Switzerland to Switzerland to study or to research there. So our first question is, how do you support researchers who are coming to study and work in Switzerland? And what should researchers know before they arrive?
So as I said in the beginning, we have several different universities. So each university will have their own support structure. And in any case, I think that a lot of autonomy and independence and proactivity will be required by the person. So it's there is a lot of support, but you have to make the first step to reach out and reach out to the offices that provide the information. It is worthwhile checking out with the future supervisor or with the head of institute or the faculty member before coming if there is anything very specific where they can support you. In Bern, for example, the university is organized very decentrally, so there can be differences in terms of support that is provided between one department and the other one. So in one case, they might have somebody that helps you finding an accommodation to start, and in others, they may not. It's also the accommodation market is not the same in all cities. And this is something that I think one should be aware before coming to Switzerland, knowing where you will go to work and where you will want to live. It is a small country with very good railroad connection, a very good infrastructure. So actually it is possible to live in a town and commute to the universities in times where for other cities would be still commuting within the city. Bern is 1 hour train from Zurich, and the university is just in the neighborhood of the train station. So there are a lot of people that work in one place and live in another. So you can even optimize in which linguistic region you want to live and in which linguistic region you want to work.
Even taxation region, I would say.
Absolutely, yes, because the taxation is set at the level of the canton. The social charges, so the pension part of the pension system depends on the employer, so depends again on the canton. And of course, living in Zurich, which is an international city, the largest city, is very thriving. So that's good that the university usually have their own canteens with a quite high quality of food. And more affordable prices, yes.
Thank you so much, Maddalena.
We are happy to have these ladies on our podcast now. Sarina Manton is working for EURAXESS, a joint office of ETH Zurich and University of Zurich with program expertise in international funding schemes. As such, she is also part of the EURAXESS Switzerland network for ETH and actively participating in the current EURAXESS project, Era Talent, as well as its predecessors, EURAXESS Hubs, Top 4 and Top 3, so has a rather extensive experience in EURAXESS. And of course, Sarah Depp is National Coordinator of EURAXESS Switzerland since August 2021. Her special interests lie in social media, gender and diversity issues, as well as liaising with her Swiss EURAXESS colleague. Beforehand, she has been working in international units of the State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation, dealing with bilateral research projects, vocational education and training and qualifications. Welcome, ladies. Thank you very much that you have found time to join us.
Hello, Sarina and Sarah. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Leah. Nice to hear you.
Hello.
It's nice to have you here. Today, we're talking about EURAXESS Switzerland, and we wanted to ask you a few questions about the current status of Switzerland and their cooperation with the European Union. So, can you tell us what are the biggest concerns for you at the moment when it comes to EURAXESS Switzerland?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. At the moment, Switzerland is not associated to the EU Framework Program for Research and Innovation. It's called Horizon Europe, of course, as I think everybody knows, who has to do with research. So, however, like Switzerland's full association to Horizon Europe remains the declared goal of our federal accounts. Maybe as you know, Switzerland and the EU share long-standing and successful cooperation ties in research and innovation. And researchers and innovators from Swiss universities and the private sector also have been participating in the program since 1987.
So, what does this non-association mean for Swiss-based researchers?
Well, it means that Switzerland is currently treated as a non-associated third country for the submission of project proposals in Horizon Europe, and also like for other related programs and initiatives. And in the non-associated third country mode, researchers and innovators from Switzerland can participate to a limited extent in around like 2/3 of all the calls for proposals.
Yeah, maybe to be more concrete, Swiss partners are eligible to participate in all collaborative calls, but they do not receive money from the European Commission. And instead, the Swiss State Secretariat of Research and Innovation, the SERI, is issuing a financial guarantee to provide direct funding to Swiss researchers for their participation in collaborative Horizon Europe and Euratom calls. Well, in other words, Swiss institutions can participate in projects with almost no restrictions. The only exception that they cannot coordinate projects. So other than that, Swiss researchers are fully fledged partners.
Yeah, maybe what we can add, like with the direct funding from SERI, from our ministry, the advantage is that the Swiss money is usually a top up on the project that they receive from the Commission.
Yeah. And so far we talked about the collaborative projects. However, the situation is slightly different in all monobeneficiary projects. These are projects which have only one principal investigators. This concerns, above all, the ERC grants and the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions for postdoctoral fellowships. So there, Switzerland is at the moment excluded.
Hmm. But then I also think like SERI found a solution for those things. Like we have a federal founding body that is called the Swiss National Science Foundation, and they run replacement schemes with the same eligibility and evaluation criteria as the European schemes. So like the Swiss partners can still participate.
Thanks for that explanation about the non-association. I think you summed it up well. And it's amazing how Switzerland has kind of found ways to work around this status. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the non-association with Horizon Europe affects the overall Swiss research landscape?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Indeed, despite the extensive communication efforts that Switzerland can participate, there is still a lot of researchers in Europe that assume this is not possible. This is a pity, as Switzerland was, and luckily to some extent still is, a bigger player in global research landscape. So it's a loss for both sides, for Switzerland, but also for the European partners.
Yeah, and I would say that the non-association has nevertheless drastic consequences for Swiss higher education institutions. Like on the one hand, Switzerland is being sidelined, or I mean, Swiss researchers are sidelined in key roles in EU programs, like as you already mentioned, Serena, in project coordination. This was very important for Swiss researchers. And also, our higher education institutions miss out on financial resources, and I think this is quite bad. The reputation loss is quite damaging. So it really has negative effects, but we can also say that luckily Swiss higher education institutions still attract researchers from all over the world. Like nearly 70% of PhDs and scientific collaborators are international at Swiss higher education institutions and universities, and 50% of professors come from abroad. So that's quite okay. And also regarding the scientific output, around 70% of publications are the result of international collaboration. So nevertheless, Switzerland has been able to keep that high amount of international collaboration.
Yeah, I think this is also like one of the beauty, like the international character that is clearly reflected at the Swiss universities. The campus is very multicultural. English is the dominant language, and also all doctoral programs are taught in English.
Yeah, yeah. And I also think like another important factor is that the framework conditions for research and innovation in Switzerland are considered to be very good, like it's political stability, security, and quality of life. They're really rather excellent by international standards. So I think that also helps. And of course, like EURAXESS plays a crucial role in making Switzerland an attractive research location. Like I think what can be tricky when coming to Switzerland is that we are a really highly federal country, meaning that every canton, and this applies also to the researchers when coming to the higher education institution, Like every canton and, for example, the university in this canton has its own regulation. And so there, the EURAXESS centers, they can really give a lot of support in making this transition from one country to another and from one university to another as easy and as smooth as possible.
Yes, we have, like at all universities, we have EURAXESS centers and we are present. And the EURAXESS centers support the researchers in motion and take care of all like non-academic issues, such as immigration, finding accommodation, and in general living in Switzerland, like Sarah just said. And our centers, they're also there for the researchers' families, and they address issues such as childcare, finding jobs for spouses, etc.
Mm. But you know, Sirana, I think there's also a lot of support, like not only when the researchers are coming at that point in time, but also when they are already in Switzerland. Like a lot of your access centers, I think maybe what you do as well.
Indeed, it is really important to us to maintain a close relationship with our researchers throughout their whole entire time while they're in Switzerland or at our institutions. We want to foster researchers with have a round profile and have soft skills. For that purpose, we offer a vast possibilities in training and teaching skills, management skills, but also how to disseminate your work on social media, etc. So we promote the exchange with peers and we support the researchers in their long-term career planning.
So it sounds like even the non-association of Switzerland to the European Commission, there's still really amazing opportunities for researchers in Switzerland and lots of help along the way.
Great. Thank you for your time and thank you for the information. And we hope we can proceed also to know a little bit better the point of view of researchers.
So we are very happy to welcome here Professor Mira Buri, who would tell us a little bit about her experience, how she moved to Switzerland and how she actually ended up in Switzerland. Mira Buri is, as of March 2021, Professor of International Economic and Internet Law at the Faculty of Law of the University of Lucerne. She is the principal investigator of the ERC project Trade Law 4.0. Trade law for the data-driven economy runs from 2021 to 2026. On 1st January 2022, Mira Buri is also elected as a member of the National Research Council of the Swiss National Science Foundation. Mira Buri joined the faculty in April 2016 as a senior lecturer and managing director for internationalization. In the latter role, she is responsible for advancing the internationalization strategy of the faculty, expanding and improving its international academic program, its network of partner institutions, and the mobility opportunities for Lucerne-based and incoming students. In Lucerne, Mira Buri teaches international law of contemporary media, digital copyright, internet law, international intellectual property law, and international trade law. She also teaches at the IMD Lausanne, the World Trade Institute, and the University of Göttingen as part of their lipid program. So, Professor Buri, thank you very much that you found time to join us here for a little conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this kind introduction. And please do call me Mira. I think it will be easier.
Thank you, Mira. So please tell us a bit of your academic journey and how you ended up in Switzerland.
Yes, of course. So it was a rather long journey. You know, I came to Switzerland in 1999 already to basically continue my legal education. So after my degree from the University of Sofia in law, I came here to study a Master of Advanced European Studies at the University of Basel. So it was an interdisciplinary master that lasted for about one and a half years. And then I chose to continue this writing a PhD project. And I was very fortunate to find a supervisor, so someone who also mentored me really overall throughout my career, and that was Professor Cotier from the University of Bern. So I moved to Bern. And then it was, there were shifts a little bit. So I went to the University of Lucerne as a scientific collaborator. And then I moved to work on a rather big project for 12 years. I was on one of the sort of flagship projects in Switzerland, this National Centers for Competence in Research that was on trade regulation. So there I was able to go on a sort of a postdoc level and also acquired a number of additional scholarships so I can complete also my habilitation, which is, as you know, this second book that you have to write in Germany or in Switzerland to be able to be a professor afterwards. So it was long. It wasn't always easy, but I think I was just very, very fortunate, to have chosen also topics in research that were relevant, that were relatively new. So it was, in a sense, sometimes luck that brings you a little bit forward. You can't anticipate everything that is going to come over you. Of course, you can imagine that in 1999, Bulgaria was not part of the EU. So things were even substantially more difficult, if you come from EU member. I think then the conditions are much better. It is easier to get a visa. It is easier also to get some sort of a embedded environment in Switzerland. So there are differences for different people coming from different places.
So, have you moved alone or with your family?
No, I moved alone. And of course, it was very hard in the beginning because I didn't speak German. I was then fortunate again to relatively early on meet my future husband, who is Swiss. So, of course, that helped me to learn German and also to learn Swiss German, which is the language spoken here, which is not the proper German. And then this, of course, opens many other doors. So you get access to a different type of environment, a circle of friends, local friends as well, and you get also to get to know the culture of things, to understand so the working of this environment, not only being there as an outsider, but somehow also going inside this new environment.
What do you think the incoming researcher should be prepared for?
Dedication, a little bit of a drive, a little bit of an ambition. That is, however, not, in the extreme, because I think, for instance, in Switzerland, humility is also very treasured, tolerance and also being able to accept things as they are and being humble also in some ways. And hard work, as I mentioned, so being able to put in the hours, not being afraid also to enter into communication with, sort of the local people. And here, very much it depends in Switzerland where you are based. So if you go, for instance, to Geneva, it's a very international environment. There are a lot of expats, a lot of people that work for international organizations. So it's very different if you go to a small city somewhere in the French part or the German part of Switzerland. So I think the place where you are is also very, very, very important. So Zurich is much more cosmopolitan, same for Geneva. So I think this is quite important. And then being open, of course, to learn the language, to learn German in the beginning, but also, of course, maybe some of the dialects that exist around here.
So, making PhD in Switzerland, was it a planned step in your career?
No, I had no plan. I mean, at that point of time, I was just, turning 25. So I really wanted to finish my education to show relatively good results during my master's studies. So that was my goal. I was quite fortunate at that point of time. I get scholarships, from the canton of Basel. Otherwise, I would not have been able to support myself. I didn't have, I was not permitted to work. At that point of time, my family, of course, could not afford actually to support me. So there are certain elements that come into play that help you out. And then I realized after I finished my master's degree that it would be relatively hard to enter right away the market, so the job market. And because I didn't speak German at that point of time at a sufficient level. So I thought that, following this sort of continued education path was actually the better option for me. And starting the PhD was excellent. And then I could get jobs in research institutions. And research institutions, I think, are in a sense more open for foreigners, for people who also have the adequate knowledge. Then, let's say, some private firm that really wants, someone who knows sort of the workings of the Swiss environment.
And what are the funding opportunities? How did you ended up with the ERC grant?
Yes, of course. So of course, the European Research Council is a great opportunity, offers great opportunities in the sense that if you have an excellent idea, no matter what field of science, you can just, try to pitch it and try to have a good project, which is also financially then absolutely well supported. So actually, I first tried with a ERC starting grant because what matters is the years after the completion of your PhD. And I could pass once the first stage, so I had already some experience, how to write a proposal, how to choose a topic, how to support your ideas in the best possible way. I also went, to Brussels for the interviews, so I already had some experience, and I think this helped me a lot later on when I succeeded with my ERC Consolidator grant, which is one level higher than the starting grant. And then what is also important is the support of the host institution. So you find a proper institution that is able to financially and also organizationally support you in this. And I think with my project on Trade Law 4.0, it is also something that is very important for the European Union and the policies it endorses. So it was a lucky match between my research in trade law and what is actually important now for the European Union and policymakers around the world. So there is some topical element around it, which was also, of course, fitting to the ERC Consolidated grant. And well, here again, I must speak a little bit of luck as well, because Switzerland is not allowed any longer to be part of the ERC grants because of the fallout of this bilateral negotiations that we have. So I was one of the last ones, basically, that were able to to get a grant. Yeah. Just we should not jinx it. I should be careful.
And speaking of luck, still no one can deny you of your hard work.
No, it's not luck. No, they have a very robust procedure and a lot of peer reviewers from around the world. So of course, the excellence of the research is actually the only quality that really counts. And also they look at the track records of the candidates. So that's important as well.
Thank you very much for this really interesting conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for this conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Academic mobility and success takes hard work and dedication. It could not be possible without the support of staff and networks. In this episode, we learned about the bright minds of researchers, their possibilities, and the support network that makes this happen in Switzerland. The EURAXESS network can be your partner through your professional journey in almost every country across the world. On EURAXESS Smart Talks, we bring all the possibilities together for you. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of EURAXESS Smart Talks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and can't wait to share more with you next time.
You can follow us and find more episodes on the EURAXESS portal or wherever you listen to podcasts.
This episode was prepared by audio engineer Pavle Drašković, outreach manager Daria Aksionova, production manager Lea Nirenberg, editors Isar Per and Miroslav Trajanovic.
This episode is published under the Creative Commons CC BY license. Thanks for listening.